Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at the official ranking for Smash Ultimate. Now I know I say that in every video, but this one is actually the closest we're going to get to the official, at least for a little bit, because what we have here is the Ultimate Ranking tier list. So what that means is the top 100 players in the entire world have made this tier list. We've taken all their results and put them into one tier list. I think 71 of the top 100 answers. So this is going to be a little bit inaccurate in some spots. We're going to see a bit of region bias in some characters as well, but I think overall it's a really interesting look at how the pros kind of look at the game. So we're going to be going over all the tiers, some characters I think should be higher, lower, all that juicy stuff when it comes to the tier list. And let's just get right into it. Really quick, I do want to look at a couple regional differences here because attached to the alt rankings Twitter, which will be in the description down below, there is a nice article here which gives just a bunch of fun facts. One of them being that two players thought Bayonetta was top 5 in the game, which is ridiculous. They are smoking something that I want to be on because that sounds amazing. But some of the regional differences, you have US and Canada who are high on Marth, Mega Man, and Ness, and weren't very positive on Diddy Kong, which is fairly interesting because you have Tweak, but maybe Tweak is like, kind of downplaying him to their top players as well as one character not just affecting the entirety of how people are going to respect them. Then you have Marth, which definitely makes sense for Latin America. Pichu, Luigi, Min Min, and Pikachu. I get Luigi, I get Pikachu, I kind of get Min Min. Not really sure what the Pichu belief is from, to be honest, though. But then again, I guess if you're thinking highly of Pikachu, you probably have the same values for Pichu as well. Then they're hating on Sora, Banjo, Hero, Ridley, Cloud, Rob, Toon Link, and Shulk. Now, the only real surprising ones for me here is going to be Ridley, Cloud. I thought, like, because you have Nair in Latin America as well. I guess he doesn't really play this character anymore, so maybe that's a big reason. But then you also have Hero. Like, they should know how good this character is. Again, one rep isn't going to affect the entire regions, what they think and say, and especially just one rep of a character that doesn't even play one of them anymore. But it is something to consider. Of course, I guess you could make that argument about Cloud as well. Banjo being minus 10, they're just correct about Banjo. Banjo is way too high on this list. We'll get to that when we're talking about him. Europe is very high on Bayonetta, Pichu, Shulk, Luigi, Brawler, Wario, Donkey Kong. All of these make so much sense, and I'm honestly surprised that Olimar is one of them just because of how hard Europe gets bodied by Olimar. But all of these, they have like a pretty solid rep outside of maybe Donkey Kong. But then again, Hikaru kind of came to Europe and slapped everyone up, and Glutos DK goes a little crazy, so maybe that's the reason. Hero, Snake, and Cloud. Now, Europe is one of the only regions that has a super major Snake rep. Like, they have a couple very good Snake players, but it isn't on the level of the American and Japanese Snakes, especially the American ones, because the American Snakes go absolutely crazy. So this makes a bit of sense. And then Japan, you can see, has the most differences because they think about the game the most differently. They're high on Banjo, Sora, Yoshi, Plant, Greninja, Pitts, Toon Link, Sheik, Hero, Dr. Mario, Kirby, Lucario, Link, Sephiroth, and Game Watch. Now, these all make a ton of sense. Sephiroth makes a lot of sense because they think Sephiroth is very, very good. Obviously, you have Kameme for Sora. They think he's very, very good. Banjo plus 15. That one actually makes no sense. I don't know what they're smoking. Same thing for Plant as well. Yoshi, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Greninja, I've had Japanese players, or we've heard Japanese players saying Greninja is potentially top 3 in the game. Like, people like very, very highly of Greninja. You have a lot of good Dr. Marios over here. It all makes a decent amount of sense. And then they're low on Wario, Terry, Incineroar, Pikachu, Zero Suit, Ness, Lucina, Luigi, Kazuya, and Mega Man. Kazuya, there's not as many rampant Kazuya players in Japan. I think the only really relevant one is going to be T, and that's only as a secondary, which again, something to consider because there's definitely more in EU and definitely more in NA. Wario as well. Japan used to be the Wario region, kind of the ZSS region as well, but both those characters have kind of dwindled up as they've gotten worse for sure, for sure. Pikachu as well, very underrated by Japan. You also don't really have a super top Pikachu up there, your best one being probably Abadango. And then when he's cycling between 4 characters and is fairly inconsistent, it's tough to see Pika at the top all the time. You have a couple good Luigis, so I'm not sure about that. A couple good Mega Mans. You have Proto with Lucina, so maybe they've just figured Proto out because, again, Proto doesn't really do as well in Japan, so maybe they know how to deal with Lucina. The character's not actually that great. I don't know. Pretty interesting. And then you have all the panelists right here from all the regions. We'll just quickly scroll through this. So, again, this is from a lot of the top. Also, shout out to Jade Izzle, the only Australia rep, holding it up for the boys. All of Australia is on his shoulders, but pretty interesting to see how different regions are reacting to different characters and what they think of them. Also, Marth, guys, US, Canada, Latin America, I'll give it up. You guys are allowed it. You have Leo. Us, come on, we know Marth isn't good. Now, on to list itself, you have the minus and plus here within the tiers, and this is essentially just from what at least I've understood of it, is how much the characters are actually, like, fluctuating. Like, let's say in the plus tier, these characters could go up. In the minus tier, these characters could go down. That's the way that I've looked at it. Like, these are the better half of the C tier. Better half of the D tier, again, I'm pretty sure this list is ordered, so it doesn't really matter. The general idea is still the same, but for the worst character in the game, you have Ganon, which is just correct, honestly, at this point. I think most people would agree Ganon is the worst. Maybe you have, like, I don't even know who you could substitute because I feel like there's a little bit of a gap between Ganon and the rest of the characters. I think Ganon is that bad, but then you have Mac next, which again, the next like 5, it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, all the characters aren't really that great. And for all of the D tier, I feel like the only character that should maybe be moved out is K. Rool. To be honest, I think K. Rool has a very strong advantage saying it can sometimes just win games because he hits you once, but then he also has to deal with him being a slow, stupid heavy, and everything else about him being really, really bad. So K. Rool, maybe move him up, but again, not that big of a deal. Also, maybe same thing with Zelda, Isabelle, but again, it would be like by a couple slots, maybe in the C- tier. So it isn't that big of a deal. So far, we're at a pretty good start. Now, in the C tier is where it gets a little bit more controversial, at least for me, starting off with Lucario. That character is way too high. Careful, Lucario. You're going to hurt yourself. I had Lucario in my bottom 3, which is definitely pessimistic and probably too far down, but they should probably be within this D tier. Again, this character is super inconsistent, one of the most inconsistent in the game, and the current meta of Ultimate right now, where you're dying a lot of the time at like 80, 60 at 0 to certain characters, you don't really get to use your aura at all, and without aura, you're just pathetic. Lucario is just so bad, so I think Lucario is a little high, but someone that I know for a fact is a little high is Banjo. Banjo over Belmont is ridiculous. Banjo over like literally half of these characters is insane. Banjo is absolutely awful. This character has nothing. Everything that he does like 4 damage. All of his combos do like 40 damage, and they take like 30 seconds to perform. All frame perfect. Banjo is so hard, and you get basically no return. This character is absolutely awful. And then people that I could maybe move up would be honestly only Belmont. Maybe Bowser Jr. just from like this part of it to the top of it, but I think for the most part this is fine. And then in the plus side of it, the only characters that I could see really being moved up are Lucas. I think Lucas could honestly go up a lot with Slingshot tech because Slingshot is very strong, and Lucas has some really potent combos with it, as well as just having some other jank that makes him pretty good. And then characters that I would move down, maybe Robin. I think Robin's a little bit too high as well. Again, we made a video about Robin recently. Just the character is incredibly inconsistent. Levin is super broken, but without Levin, Robin is just a very bad character. Kind of the same thing like Lucario. Sometimes you're going to have your resources that make you really strong, but when you don't have them, you're so weak that it makes your consistency very hard. So I'm going to probably move Robin down, move Lucas up. But again, the C tier, it isn't that bad. Next up is going to be the B tier. Now, the first caveat in B tier that I think is a little bit too high is going to be Marth. Marth, he's just, again, I value consistency a lot. Marth is one of the most inconsistent characters in the game, though I do think he should be probably in the C+ tier. I wouldn't move him down by that much. I think he's still a little bit high just considering the character's weaknesses are so bad. Pit, I would have probably argued that Pit's too high, but after seeing Zachary, it's really tough to say that this character is total cheeks because that character definitely has some sauce, so I'll allow it for Pit now. Meta Knight maybe a little higher. It's like kind of tough to rank Meta Knight though. Bowser, I would definitely move to this plus side, but again, at this point, it's by a couple placements, so it isn't that big of a deal. Ice Climbers and Pichu, I think, are also pretty tough to rank. I think Ice Climbers will only go up, and I think Pichu is going to be one of those characters that's almost impossible to rank because half the games Pichu's going to win, half the games Pichu's going to lose because either you die at 0 or he dies at 0. He is like the most coin flippy character in this game, it feels, because sometimes he just owns you, and then sometimes he gets absolutely bodied by like a random back air read at like 6. So Pichu's a character that's pretty tough. I do think Icy's will get better, but then you have like Link. I know top players are hating on Link. I'm not going to talk about Link because every other channel we talk about him, but I think he's a little bit low. And then I think Toon Link and Rosalina are absolutely fine there. And then within the plus tier, you have some characters that maybe should be a little higher. I think the biggest one should probably be Ness, just considering all the Psy Magnet tech. But even like looking at the characters above him, I don't think that Ness is necessarily better than any of these characters. I just think he's in that, well, he's better than Falcon, but I just think he's in that caliber of that A- tier. But then again, you don't really want to cluster everything, so I totally get it. Kind of the same thing with Corrin, maybe even Chrom to an extent. I think Chrom is, while inconsistent, very hard, so it's just his neutral on stage is so good. Also, something that is interesting to note is that the gap between Lucina and Marth is smaller than the gap between Roy and Chrom. Pretty crazy how far it's come. Just Chrom keeps falling off, and like Marth keeps falling on for some reason. Again, I don't really get it, but people are seeing it. Bayonetta, maybe a little bit low, honestly. I think this character's got some sauce. Hero's a tricky one to rank. I think Luigi, Inkling, Falcon, I think all those characters are perfect where they are. The only, like, the main complaints I have the B tier, again, probably going to be, honestly, just Corrin. I think I would just move up Corrin and Ness to the A- tier, and then from the B- tier, maybe move Marth down. But again, it isn't that bad, but trust me, it gets a little dicey in this A tier. Next up is the A tier, starting off with Mega Man. This is the best Mega Man placement that I have seen in like years. Most dealers are dumping on Mega Man, but this one, giving him the respect he deserves, so happy with that already. Then you have Brawler, which is just a really, really low placement for Brawler. I have Brawler probably within this S- tier, maybe the top of A+, but this character is absolutely ridiculous. They can kill you off at grab, they can kill you off at tilt, they can kill you off an aerial. Every time Brawler touches you, you're either getting comboed or dying, and it's incredibly scary to play against. Then you have Ryu, which is like, I think, a pretty good spot for Ryu. Then you have Sheik. Probably would move Sheik higher, especially with all the tech that's being discovered about her with her jab, because that stuff is ridiculous. I think Sheik's pretty good. Again, is very hard, can be pretty inconsistent because you need to be playing at a high top level to be able to win. But I think Sheik is just, her movement just allows her to have so much. Same thing with Needles as well. I think Needles is really scary. So probably move Sheik up. Then you have Ken. Ken isn't that bad. This isn't a bad spot for Ken. But then you consider that Ken is over Ryu. And that is just wrong. Ryu is better than Ken. I think he's way, way better. I think his side B is better. His neutral special is 100% better. It gives Ken, like, Ryu such real scary camping, whereas Ken's camping is just kind of like, it's just like a fireball. You shield it at the end of the world. Ryu's chunks your shield for a decent amount of damage. It does way more. It's way more scary to deal against. I think Ryu is just way, way better than Ken. Again, there are things that Ken is definitely better at, and it is a couple slots, so I'm not going to make that big of a deal about it, even though I already have, but I would definitely have Ryu over Ken. Then you have Greninja, which is, again, absolutely fine. I think Greninja deserves to be here. Byleth, honestly, Byleth is okay. I'd probably just move them like to the bottom of A minus, maybe like right behind Mega Man, maybe B plus, but I don't think Byleth's like that. But I spot the character is pretty good. Sora surprisingly low. I thought Sora would be within this A plus tier at least, especially considering that we're starting to see the repercussions of the Sora damage starting to come in because you have Kameme doing really well. He's hitting all these crazy Sora combos. You haven't really seen any other Soras take it to that level yet. Big emphasis on yet because I think there will be other Sora players that are going to come up out of the woodworks because this character is ridiculous. Then you have Terry. I think this is a fine spot for Terry. Maybe a little couple spots higher, but I think Terry's good here. Young Link, perfect spot for Young Link. Same thing with Olimar as well. Then you have the A plus tier. Sephiroth, way too high. Sephiroth, get down from there. You're going to hurt yourself. I move Sephiroth to the B plus tier. This character is mid. Sephiroth, well, not mid. He's still pretty good because he's in the B plus tier, and most good characters are in there. But Sephiroth is just so hard. You need to be spacing with him so well. And I think this is a quote directly from Tweak. Sephiroth doesn't do things better, like at the ledge specifically. He just does things for longer. Sephiroth is just kind of there for a while. His hitboxes are big. They're scary. They deal with, you shield with him. He's slow. He can't really follow up the pressure. He gets kind of one commit, and then he's kind of out of it. Like, Sephiroth is just not an amazing character. I think maybe A minus towards the lower end of it is fine. I'd put him in B plus. I think this is way too high in A plus. Then you have ZSS, absolutely fine where she is. I think Samus also fine where she is. Maybe move her up a couple slots. Wario, again, same thing. The rest of this tier, I don't really have any complaints about. I think PT, maybe a couple spots higher. Also, surprising how far Lucina has fallen because she's usually like at least within this S minus tier, or like. But also the S tier is a bit smaller than I would have in my S tier, and I think most people have their S tier because the top tier of Ultimate is so big because there's so many broken characters. So interesting to see her down here. Mario's fine, Yoshi's fine. Also interesting that we have Yoshi over characters like Mario and Wario, Lucina, PT. Like, these are characters that are all super like Samus as well, all super meta relevant, and we just kind of have Yoshidora. But the damage that Yoshidora is able to do with Yoshi has clearly scared people enough because that character is ridiculous. Again, double jump armor is one of the stupidest mechanics in the game and allows for Yoshi to get out of situations that no other character can. His combos are really strong. His killing's really good. His recovery's really strong. Again, when you have that double jump, of course. Yoshi just has a lot of things going for him, so I think this A plus slot is absolutely fine for him. But now we get to this S tier, and this is where things get a little bit crazy. Now here we have the S tier. There are 19 characters in it, so Yoshi technically the 20th best character of the game, top 20. Our 19th is going to be Shulk. I think Shulk here is fine, though I think it's like, it seems like he's fallen from grace because this character used to be like top 10 easily in my mind. It's just so hard to be doing really, really well with Shulk, and other characters can do kind of what he's doing, but easier. Other characters can kill really, really early without needing Monado. Other characters can do a ton of damage in combos without needing Monado. Other characters have insane movement without Monado. And while Shulk has access to all of these things, sometimes other characters have access to them all the time, which I think is something that is holding him back a little bit, but the character is obviously still broken. He's in this S minus tier. Then you have Game & Watch, perfect spot for Game & Watch. That character is ridiculous. Then you have Paulu. So Paulu is a little bit low. She's at, I think, 17th spot. I could be wrong. It seems low, but I look at the characters above her, and there's only like two in my mind that I'm like, okay, Paulu is definitely better than. And speaking of that, the next one is Min Min, who I think Paulu is better than. But Paulu's just a character that has very, very good combos, very solid aerials. Like, her aerial game is ridiculous. Her grab game is very strong. Her specials are okay. Her tilts are not that mid. Like, her tilts are just kind of bad. But Paulu's aerial game is just so ridiculous. Back air pressure is really strong. Up air juggling is ridiculous. Nair, obviously, we know about that. Down air is a really, really good move. Forward air, the spacing that you get on that and shield is very, very strong. Palutena is just super, super solid. I think she's a little bit low, but again, it's only by like 2, maybe even 3 spots, so it isn't that big of a deal. Then you have Mimu, who I do think is, like, again, a little bit high, but it's only by 2 or 3 spots. Even when we get to this S plus tier, it only starts to matter, like, the spots by, like, kind of it's bigger by a margin of 5, and I think Mim is absolutely fine where she is. Again, a little bit high, but the character can literally edge guard you on stage and then lead trap you if she messes it up. Her neutral's ridiculous, her advantage state's ridiculous. She just doesn't have great disadvantage in recovery, but that's a couple characters' problems up here as well, so I won't hold against her too much. Snake being next. Snake, honestly, a little bit low. Snake is really, really good, but you also have to consider that this is every single region in the world, and some regions don't have a crazy Snake player, but I think 3 of the 4 major ones voting because you have America, you have Japan, you have Europe, and you have Latin America. So they all have a major Snake rep, except Europe. Again, they have a couple good Snake players in Europe, but maybe Europe is what's holding Snake back. I honestly wouldn't be surprised. Then you have Pac-Man, who I have in my top 10. I think that character is ridiculous. Amazing boxing, amazing projectiles, amazing zoning. Everything about Pac-Man is super, super good. One of the best, if not the best grab in the game because you can't spot dodge it. Pac-Man's pretty good. Probably would move him up into this S like dot area, I guess this S even. But then you have probably the biggest atrocity of the S minus list is Pikachu. Pikachu, not even top 10 because Cloud is your first top 10 character. This is way too low. Pikachu is easily top 10, easily top 5 in my mind, easily top like 3, 4. I don't even know where I put Pikachu on my list. I think I put him 3 or 4. But Pikachu is ridiculous. This character kills you off of one hit. His grab game is absurd. His edge guarding is amazing. He has some of the best advantage in the game. His camping's really strong. His disadvantage really strong. Pikachu doesn't have a ton of weaknesses. Only things maybe a little weak about him are he forces a lot of 50-50s. Sometimes he can struggle a little bit for the kill. And if you start reading those side Bs or those up B punishes, what Pikachu players can get lazy against, then you're going to explode the character because he is still very light. But that's kind of more of a Pikachu player thing, just getting exploded for doing bad recoveries. But he is light, so that is something you have to consider. I think Pikachu should be way, way higher. Again, like probably like 10 spots or so, but it's not the end of the world. I could see the reason because there's not a lot of Pikachu reps really anywhere right now because a lot of Pikachu players aren't doing super, super well, but they will come back and everyone will be proved wrong like it happens every single time. Next up, we have Diddy, who's honestly a little bit high for me. I think Diddy's probably within this S minus tier area, probably towards like the lower half of though. I can honestly see him in the A plus as well. Diddy is really good. Banana is one of the best items in the game. It allows for such amazing pressure, accompanied with Monkey Flip as well. It just allows for Diddy to be so scary at all times. His combo game is ridiculous. His recovery is meh. His disadvantage is really good, especially with like pop gun canceling meta. I think Diddy's really, really strong. I just think sometimes other characters hit a little bit harder, get the kill a little bit easier, even though Diddy Kong has down tilt. It's crazy that other characters can get the kill easier. But Diddy, sometimes he struggles a little bit to get that kill, especially if you know he wants the down tilt. If you can play outside of that side B burst range as well, he really struggles. And if you have Banana, oh my god, having Banana against versus Diddy, like good Banana control, it makes it so much harder to win versus that character. It's such a major win condition that you can kind of just steal away. Definitely like this S plus, or like S plus, or S minus A plus character though. Still very, very good. Those are just some of the things that maybe will hold him back. Then you have Wolf. A little high for Wolf, but I think the average thing for Wolf is everyone is just like, yeah, Wolf is just every single person in the world knows that Wolf is just solid. This character is really good, but they're not like broken. Wolf is just well made. He's a really good top tier. He has some very strong things about him. He has a little bit of weaknesses that hold him back from like that top 5 stardom spot. But Wolf, a little high for me, but I think it's probably going to average out from everyone just seeing the value that Wolf brings. And then our final S minus character is going to be Cloud. Now, I had Cloud, I think at number 7 on my tier list, which in hindsight is way too high. Top 10, I think, is fine for him, though. I think he's definitely a top 10 character. He is absolutely ridiculous. The sword is so big. It controls so much space. His killing is amazing. His ledge trapping is really, really strong. His up out of shield game is obviously ridiculous. The only downside is maybe his recovery, but his recovery is really hard to 2-frame. It's really hard to mess with sometimes, especially with the hitbox, and Cloud is pretty good aerial drift as well. So Cloud, I think his weaknesses are a little bit over, like, dramaticized, whereas his strengths are right on par. Like, everyone knows that Cloud's strengths are really, really strong, and the weaknesses aren't as bad as people say they are. I think Cloud being top 10 is absolutely fine. Next up, you have this S dot starting off with Peach. Now, Peach is a character where you have to work so insanely hard that I personally don't have them in my top 10. But that does not mean they are not a top 10 making character, because Peach has float, and access to float means you are at worst an A- character. Like, every character in the game with float is really, really good, probably even Ganon, and I'm not kidding, because float is just such a ridiculous mechanic, as well as Peach just having really good buttons, in the air especially. Even though they're small, if you can hit that first air, you can hit that first back air, that first nair, that first down air, you are going to explode people. You do so much damage, as well as Turnip being a really good combo opener as well. Peach is just incredibly hard. She has some weaknesses, but she's allowed to play certain scenarios like no other character in the game could, just kind of baiting, staying outside of your range with punishing the best in the game. Peach is really, really hard, but when worked well, she's definitely a top 10 caliber character. Then you have Roy, and I think this is exactly where I had Roy in my tier list. I think I had him at 8, maybe he's like 9 or 7, but the point is, they did a good job on Roy. That character is absolutely ridiculous. Funny how far he is from Chrom now. It's like so many spots, but Roy is very, very good. Then you have Kazuya, a little bit interesting for me because I was going to say low, but it isn't even that bad because I think I had Kazuya at 5 in my video, so it's only 2 down. And that video is old, by the way, now. But Kazuya is a character that I think is only going to get worse with time because at this point, Kazuya players are pretty much touch of death in you 50% of the time. And with human error, it's not going to get that much better. It might be getting to 70%, but even in like 40 years of this game, people are still probably going to be dropping combos. It's going to be a lot cleaner, but you also have to consider how much better the counterplay against Kazuya gets. Because the play for Kazuya, it can only get so much better. At some point, you kill someone at one hit, that's the best Kazuya's getting. The counterplay against Kazuya and camping him is getting way stronger. We're seeing Kazuya just have these unwinnable matchups where even if he hits you once and kills you at 0, he is still losing because he just does not win. Neutrally struggles a lot. So Kazuya is a really tough one to rank. I think the 7th spot for him, it isn't too low, it isn't too high. I think right now it's honestly perfect. Then you have Rob, which is kind of the same thing as Kazuya, except it's way easier for him to get the hit, but he also doesn't kill you at 0 every single time because sometimes he kills you at 0 with these gyro combos that are ridiculous. He has down tilt, which is one of the best like just tools in the game. Down tilt is so good. Gyro is so good. His nair is massive. His arrows are all very strong. Rob is just an amazing character. The only downside is, I guess, is like he's a little bit big. And then you have our top 5. The first one being Fox, which is pretty interesting because I think I had Fox at 6, which again might be a little bit high, even though Fox is really good. This character has amazing ledge trapping just because of how quick his back air is, his up tilt is. Up smash after reaction is a little bit risky, but those other 2 options I just mentioned are amazing. His combo game is unreal. When Fox hits you with any aerial, he can combo into 50%. Hits you with a dash attack, you're getting comboed. Down tilt, you're getting comboed. Up tilt, you're getting comboed. Fox hits you and you take so much damage. He has some pretty consistent kill confirms as well in that nair and that down air. The only thing that can maybe hold it back against him is, one, he's very light, which is like a super bad thing. But the other thing is he can get a little bit linear because you kind of know how Fox is going to get the kill. He's either going to, one, he's going to try to get a stale dash attack against me. He's going to try to get a nair or a down air into up smash. He's just going to raw up smash, or he's going to get like a back air at the ledge. Everything else, I guess up air call it as well, but everything else for Fox, you kind of know how he's going to get the kill, which can sometimes make it very hard for him to close out the games, and you also have to consider that when he is this light, it makes him explode. So sometimes in last stock, last hit situations, it's really hard for Fox to win because you know what Fox wants, and he can just die at like 60. But even with those things, Fox's buttons are just so ridiculous. You can do that on-2 frameable recovery with his side B, so it's not as bad as it seems offstage, though there is ways to mess with that, of course, because you could just beat him before he even gets to the ledge. I think Fox has a lot of very good things about him. I think his counterplay is getting better, but I also think Fox players are pushing him further and further. Like we saw Light at Level Up Expo. Go watch some of those Light sets. You can see the work that he's putting with Fox just from like specific certain matchups that character's meta is getting pushed super far. Fox is ridiculously broken. I don't know if he's quite top 5, but I think he's definitely within this top 10 range for sure. Then you have Sonic. So I have Sonic as number 1. So he's a little bit low for me. I think it's okay that he's at 4. I personally would like to see him in this S plus tier. I think he's definitely that S plus caliber. But Sonic is just good. He can run away from you. He has really solid buttons. He has really good advantage state. When he has a lead, he's the best character in the game. Only things I can hold against Sonic is when he doesn't have a lead, sometimes he's a little bit rough. As well as there are characters that are really quick like him that hit for more. Sonic, most of the time, even though he sometimes hits you and you die, most of the time he's going to be getting like 40, 30%, maybe 50% if he gets a really good combo. And then he can edge guard you and gets you to advantage and all that stuff. But sometimes Sonic just has to win neutral a lot, and usually it's pretty easy because you have this invincible spin dash option that allows you to win neutral, not for free of course because you do have to space it and it is a way to be punishable, but I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, so I'll just kind of cut it off. But the point I'm making with Sonic is sometimes Sonic doesn't hit as hard as the characters that he's hitting, so even if Sonic's winning neutral most of the time, he gets hit once and he explodes a little bit, but also then sometimes Sonic is killing you at 0, so it's a bit of a coin. I think it should be higher, but I think a 4th place for him isn't too bad. And now we have our big three of this S plus tier. Starting off with Joker. Joker is exactly where he should be. This is where I had him on my list, and this is where he'll stay. I think number 3 for Joker is perfect. Then you have Aegis hit second, which is a little bit interesting because people think very highly of Aegis. And don't get me wrong, Aegis is broken. I definitely put Aegis way too low in my video, by the way. Like on my Cheers video, if you watch that, I think I had her at 9. She is 6 in my mind. I still don't think she's quite top 5 yet. I think Kazuya could fall out of that top 5. I think top 2 is a little bit too much, but like the character is very strong. One of the best, if not the best neutral in the game, even potentially over Sonic and Mythra. Mythra's neutral is just ridiculous. Her buttons are massive. Pyro's a really nice way to end out stocks. The matchups that you can play with this character are also pretty good because usually one of Mythra or Pyro does better in one matchup. It's usually going to be Mythra, but there's certain matchups like Ice Climbers, for example, where Mythra or rather Pyra is really strong. You don't need to know a ton about these characters to do really well with them. They're fairly simple in their bread and butters. And finally, we have this S plus tier. Starting off with Joker at number 3. This is perfect. This is where I had Joker in my list, and this is where he's going to stay. Absolutely broken character. Gun is ridiculous. Arsene is stupid. Number 3 for Joker is great. Then you have Aegis at 2. Now, I had Aegis, I think, at 9 in my video, which in hindsight is way too low. If I had to make a list right now, I'd put her at 6. Maybe she slips into top 5 when Kazuya falls out. Aegis is ridiculous. This character's advantage state is some of the best in the game. Mythra probably has the best neutral of the game. Maybe Sonic or Fox beats it out, but I would probably give it to Mythra. Mythra neutral is just absolutely insane. Their buttons are massive. The character's incredibly quick. You can't react to dash. You find like foresight. Mythra is just so good. Pyra for securing the kill is really nice as well with these massive hitboxes. Pyra on the lead trap is really strong as well. Pyra down tilt. This is just something that we saw with Leo, and then Pyra players just kind of stopped doing it. We saw Leo abuse the hell out of this move. Like turnaround down tilts, pivot down tilts, just raw down tilts. Pyra down tilt is so good. It's such an amazing poking tool that we just don't really see. F tilt's still really good. Up tilt's still really good. Everything about Pyra is really good. All of her buttons are amazing. And you never really need to play her in this disadvantage or neutral state because you can always play Pyra in advantage because you just play Mythra for the rest of the time. Just ledge trap with Pyra, switch back to Mythra, do it all with Mythra. It doesn't really matter. This character is ridiculous. The only downside of them is going to be the recovery. It's fairly lackluster and people are still bad at edge guarding it. At least like the side B people are getting good at, but the up B I feel like people don't really mess with a lot because they'd rather go for the ledge trap because they want to keep stage control, which I think is absolutely fine. But I think that's a massive weakness of the character that can be exploited more. And our number 1 is going to be Steve, which I can't really have complaints with, even though, again, I have Sonic's number 1. I think Steve being number 1 is absolutely fine. It's like really either of those two because both those characters are ridiculous. Steve is so good. He hits you once you die. Minecart's really good. Anvil's one of the best, if not, it's definitely the best down in the game. It's one of the best moves in the game. Block allows him to do things that other characters just cannot do. Steve is absolutely ridiculous. And I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Sorry this video was a little bit more rambly, but the tier lists tend to be. And I just kind of wanted to go over them, what I thought of certain characters, kind of give my feedback into them all. Because this is overall, I think, a pretty good list. Again, there are certain characters that are a little bit too high, a little bit too low. Pikachu is probably the biggest atrocity on this list. Maybe Sephiroth as well being that high. But aside from that, I feel like there's no one that got like super. Oh, Banjo. No, Banjo's the biggest atrocity. Get down from there, Banjo. You are going to hurt yourself. But again, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'm curious what you think of this list. How did your main do? If I didn't talk over your character a lot, I know I didn't talk about a lot of the bottom tiers left. Sorry, I'll be sure to go over them, how I actually think. If I explained something poorly, hopefully I didn't because I think I was doing pretty well this video. But again, let me know down below. We'll always correct stuff because you want to have people having the right information at all times. Support's been absolutely real lately. Thank you guys for everything. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.